Well, to friends in the country of Georgia, welcome. It's early in the morning here in California, 11 hours ahead in Tbilisi, Georgia, where I've got two old friends and a new friend. So, my good friend there and world traveler, Damon, is tasting already. So, we're happy to see him. And then, of course, my very good friend, Giorgi, who I forget where we first met. It might have been in Greece or some other country or India. I know we were together in Greece and India. So very good to see you, Giorgi, and having us introduced to our new friend Otto. There, he's the wine man. So anyway, they're having a good time there in the capital of Georgia, tasting wine. And let me ask a question as to before we get into the wine, just briefly. What's the state of the vineyards now? You know, we're a little bit beyond bud break here. More and more of the vineyards are starting to see some vines forming. Is that the case in Georgia? What's the state of the vineyards? Anything you've noticed? We having bud break? We call it bud break. We get the first shoots.
Yeah, I've seen no bud break, but I haven't really inspected the vineyards that well. But I would doubt that there's any bud break yet, right?
Right, the question.
The first little growth on the vines for the year. Just that he's saying what's what is there any growth on the vines? What's going on with the vines? Are they still dormant for the winter time, or are they actually starting to grow again with the big springtime?
So actually, on the springtime is like I would say.
Still to come.
It's still a
Yeah.
little cool here.
Actually,
Oh, it is cool there. Right, of course.
Spring is when like grapes is starting to like give birth to new life, like after winter. Like actually, in Georgia, not too strict winter is itself. Like so that's why sometimes like it depends on March. Like winter comes to March in the middle of March, but actually now it's already warm here. So already all these grapes and other like trees are starting to uh, like new cycle of life.
Yeah, of
So
course. Well, I think to my surprise, it always seems to be coming a little bit earlier, and it was only almost 3 weeks ago that in Sonoma County we started to have bud break, but now it's much more extensive throughout this county and also in the Napa Valley, especially on the valley floor. So we're always happy to see what we call bud break here, the little buds. So, well, I understand also that there's been quite a increased production of vines in Georgia. Of course, you go back, what is it, 8,000 years in wine production, would you say?
yeah, like 8,000 years, like 6 million before Christ. So we started to make wine. So it's proved by like foundings, archaeological foundings, like stems and seeds of grape which were cultivated in that time. So it's a proof that in that time Georgia already was wine. And the
Right.
fact that it's very interesting that during this 8,000 years we never stopped to make wine. So all
Right.
this 1,000 years we are making wine every
Uh-huh.
time, every year. So that's why it makes more interesting Georgian wine and
Yes.
Georgian history.
Well, again, while we're ahead of you in the growing cycle by only a few weeks, again, you have a long heritage and history, and you have, as I understood, many more wineries have been established in recent years to feed the major markets of the industry. And what would be the leading countries that you're exporting to, besides Russia, where there's a lot of popularity of Georgian wines? What other countries do you export to.
Yeah, I understand. So actually, we just talked about before, like we started our meeting, and I'll gonna tell the story. Like the biggest market for Georgian wines was Russia, because you know history. We were under Soviet Union quite a long time. So after ruin of Soviet Union, we the biggest market remained Russia as well. But after 2008, when we had war with Russia, there was embargo, so we couldn't sell in Russia anymore. So that's why Georgian people started to find new markets all around the world, including the US and like New Zealand and Australia and China and Japan and many other countries. Also Europe, like France, Italy, Netherlands, and so on and so on. So the fact was that they didn't have um, any information about Georgian wine in Georgia, but the reason they found interesting, they were interested in Georgian wine was the quality of Georgian wine and its unique style of winemaking. I don't know if you have happen to know this or not, but in Georgia we make wine, what we call Georgian traditional way of winemaking, in kvevari. Kvevari is a like clay vessel, big clay pot, which is buried under the ground, and all wine process goes in it. So it's totally different from amphoras and tinajas and some different clay traditions who use clay in winemaking. Because we bury it under the ground and it's beeswax inside, and everything this makes totally different taste.
Right.
So why many other countries like in Europe, even like Italy and France and Germany as well, and many other started to import Georgian wines, including like US, like even Korea, Israel, many other types. Actually, for example, the wine we're tasting today, it's Peasant Tears Winery. It's produced in Kakheti, Georgia, and they sell about wines in 22 countries.
Uh-huh.
So,
Well, so a growing market, that's good news for you.
I think, yeah, I think the answer is that after Russia, I think Ukraine is also like biggest market for Georgians now. But also we started to in 2000 after 2008 year, mostly was appreciated homemade wines, like different wines, not industrial wines. So because of this different way of winemaking, we're interested in many other countries as well. So after that, we start to sell in most of the world. I think I don't know the world where we don't sell.
Right. Well, in addition to the use, I'm sorry, Giorgi, go ahead.
No, I mean it's really every continent where we sell, every 5 continents.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's very encouraging.
South America, Brazil, and many countries.
Right, of course. Well, that's good news.
Canada,
Before we get into the specifics of the wine, I wonder if my friend Damon, have you determined as yet, is there a wine tourism business there, as such as we know it in California? Or maybe you could be the father of wine tourism in Georgia.
I'm the father of Georgian wine tourism as an American, but I found there is wine. I mean, it's a rough time being COVID times with curfew right now. And so, when I stop at wineries, they're not just open for tastings like you would get in, we still have to have appointments obviously now in California. But I mean, I see wine tours being advertised in different cities, but I can't taste the wines, the few wineries I've been to. So it's, I think it's just an odd time to try to judge it with COVID.
Right, but you're suggesting that in fact there is a wine tourism industry there.
For sure.
I mean, prior to COVID, there were wineries to visit, etc.
Many, yeah. You look on Google Maps or anything, yeah. There's many wineries to visit.
Actually, I mentioned like after embargo, we started to make wines, and many people from different countries come for wine, especially in Georgia, for wine tourists. That's why there already made wine roads, even signs. So actually, Georgia started to preparing for this wine tourism, and it started. But actually, this COVID situation last 2 years made like decrease this like how to say amount of tourists interested in wine tourism in Georgia. But
Well,
actually,
that's another form of income and revenue for the country. And usually wine drinkers, wine enthusiasts are adventuresome people. So as when the COVID goes away, you can stir a lot more interest of people coming there. One last question, which you might get into anyway, is other than the clay vessels for aging wine, do you also use oak or other wood barrels?
yeah, actually we use American, French, and Caucasian oaks. Mostly these three of them, and there are a few grape varieties which are especially give more tasty and like more flavor and taste in oak. So that's why, yeah, we have culture, and it started in early 90s using of barrels. It's like not new style actually for us. Actually, we started before, I think, yeah, like 90s, the beginning of 90s, when people started to make industrial wines already in Georgia. There were like factories and so on, and they started to bring oak barrels and to make wine. But actually, we never lose this tradition to make wine in clay. And
Uh-huh.
nowadays, like we use both of them, like oaks and clay as well.
Right. Very good. Well, let's get into the wine you're presenting of the
Yeah.
whites and the reds. So, Otto, why don't you take it away? What's your first white? One last thing was, I believe you have indigenous vines there, indigenous fruit, many uh, types of grapes that are grown, and not as we in California have the French varietals primarily, but you have indigenous vines.
Yeah. So about in Georgia, in every region there are many of different grape varieties. Nowadays, most of them are lost already, and we use about 30, 35 different varieties for winemaking. But actually, we have a list of wines about more than 500 grape endemic varieties, and it's about like quarter of which is in the world, entire world. So it's not like how to say. We really have this names of these grape varieties, like this 500 and more, and we are how to say proud of that. That we really care about these wines, like because every wine, and we're gonna talk about the wines we're tasting today. They're totally different from each other, different taste, and different region give totally different taste. So that's why we really appreciate like other wines, like from other world, like France or Italy or different countries. But we have our own very big palette of grape varieties. So there is no need to import like wine like grapes from different countries.
Right, right. Well, anyway, so let's start with you're telling us about the whites that you have already tasted.
Yeah, I'll gonna bring another glass for you, if you're not against, to show you this color and like you gonna, of course, you can't taste it, but at least like for your visitors who will see this video will make difference between these wines. So first wine we started was actually I'm gonna tell you first that in Georgia we have two styles of winemaking, like American style, west part of Georgia, and Eastern style is Cajetian technology of winemaking. So I'm gonna So Emiratian wine is known as a style of European winemaking. Like I mean, after harvest, when people press grapes, they leave just juice of grapes, and that's why it's more light, fresh, and more acidic wines. So you're gonna see the color. It's from Imereti. I don't know how you see or not.
Yes.
I don't know if it's visible or
Oh,
not.
that's good. Yeah, hold it up there. Yeah, that's I can see that. That's a good showing of it.
Yeah, it's like white wine, what people call, and it's like great varieties. Tsolik Auri. Tsolik Auri is like Emiratian.
Yeah, hold that close. Up. There we go. Hold it. Oh, very good. Okay. Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, it's Emiratian wine and light white wine. So it's made with Eastern style, which means like to make wine without skin contact. Like there are no any like stems and seeds inside, just juice of grapes. So that's why it's very light and like refreshing wine. It's vintage of 2018.
2018. Now, was that served chilled, that particular wine?
Like the light ones are more used to chilled ones because like to give its flavor like with its best way. So let's move to another one.
Okay.
Okay. The another one is most famous Georgian white wine. It's Katsiteli grapes.
Let me you hold that in there. Let me get a picture of that one. Move it down a little bit. All right, hold it steady. Let me get that picture. All right, I did a screen print. Very good. Thank you.
I can send you labels if you want, or good
Right.
pictures if you want.
So let me ask Damon here, who is quite experienced. I think he has a very good palate. He tries a lot of wines. Damon, can I ask you, we hate to just simply make comparisons, but of the whites that you've tasted here tonight, are either of them somewhat similar to any of the California whites, or were they quite distinctive on their own?
I find them quite different. Yes, the first wine is very light, nice acidity, but it doesn't remind me of any specific varietal or wine from California.
Right.
Mainly Sonoma and Napa, which is where I have my wines. And then the second wine is an orange wine, as we call it in California. And so it tastes. I've only had a few of those, from California, and this tastes quite different from the few I've had there.
And among the flavor profile, would you say that either of those are sweet or semi-sweet as one
Dry.
characteristic?
Dry wines.
Yeah, both dry.
Both dry. Okay.
Actually,
And in terms of the export of the production or the export of the wines, do you produce and export more reds than whites, or equal amounts, or how would you describe the production?
Actually, we export equal amounts because, as I told, like when people are tasting Georgian wines, they don't say they like it or not, but all of them say that it's totally different what they have tasted before, because it's totally different. So now we're gonna talk about Katsiteli grapes and compared to another wine, and we call it just regular white wine, but people call it amber wine or orange wines in US.
Very good.
Now you can compare like to each other these two style of winemaking. Like one is made with skin contact.
Oh, I see the difference in the color. Yes, very good.
Another one is like amber wine. So I think all this makes Georgian wine unique and different from other rest of the world, like the style of Georgian winemaking. So what about taste? It's difficult to explain how it tastes now. But you need to believe us. Yeah, but I think the next one is like vintage of 2013 already.
Yeah, that's the big difference. Is that this has
also
got some
the
age on it.
age and everything makes sense, but itself, like the color of the way of wine making, is that the other one, the second one, is made with skin contact. What we call skin contact is to make wine, like when we press grape, we leave there everything, like the stems and the seeds and skins, and it depends on winery or just grape variety, but they can keep it for like 6 months or 9 months or 1 year with skin, and after remove skin, they just make bottling or just also continue to keep in clay, like in clay vessel. So upon that, it depends how wine goes, like shows itself, like it's too high alcohol or many tannins or like too many fruits or so on and so on. But every region has its own style of winemaking in Georgia.
Very good. Yes.
Next one, which we also like didn't taste it yet, and also Damon had to taste it now. And this one, I prepared this one specially, like it's a Barbisteri Katsiteli. So to translate, it's like Roser Katsiteli, but actually it's the grape variety, so we didn't do not translate, and we call it just Barbisteri Katsiteli. So it comes from Kakheti as well, but this is vintage of 2019. It's a light red one, like pinky one. Not, actually, we don't call it rosé, but it's like pinky wine. So I'll show you the color as well, and with your glass.
Thank you.
What about taste? I think Damon can share his opinion about taste.
I will show you the color.
You see, it's pinky one, like light red, very light red.
It's a little bit cloudier than the rosés you find in California.
Yeah, it's not like rosé. And also, we do not make filtering. Like all wines are unfiltered in this way, like homemade wines mostly. And all these wines we're going to today is unfiltered wines, no any filtrations. So if you meet any sediment inside, it's normal for natural wines. So different from industrial wines. In natural wines, is not used any chemicals while winemaking, and also in like vineyards. So that's why we call it natural or like organic wine. So it depends. Like there are also some slight difference between these words. So, but actually we call it natural wine when we don't use any chemicals.
Right. Well, is it a function of the contact with the skins and the fruit itself, or the amount of time that I mean, is it from a grape that would naturally produce that very light red, or is it because of the skin content? What results in the color?
Yeah, I'll explain. Like there are like a few varieties in Georgia. So if you remove skins from grapes, inside this flesh is or splash is like green. You know that. So if you remove from red grapes, you can make white wine. But in Georgia, we have some grape varieties when the splash is also red one. So it never mind you remove skin or not, you're gonna get red wine. So the Saperavi is one of those, and
It's quite dark.
in Georgia, we call it black wine itself, because
Black wine.
because it's very dark, intense red. Actually, we know that there is no any black wines, just reds and whites, but because of its dark color, Georgia people call it black wine.
This is one.
Yeah, hold it steady. Go ahead.
Not red one. This is
This is
one.
pinky. The third
This
one.
is Katsiteli. What is the third one? Third bowl.
Thank you.
And for this one, like we use skins about a few days, like 4 days or 3 days, and after that we remove skins and just do some grapes. That's why it has light color of like pinky one, not totally white, and that's why it's like a light red one. I mean.
I think there's less than 10 grapes in the whole world that have a non-clear juice in them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we always know of Alicante Bouchet, like is one that has a pink juice when you squeeze it versus clear juice, which is 99% of the grapes.
Yeah, but I'll show you. Actually, I haven't Paolo here, but sapere itself, like the word saperavi itself, it's like to give color to another thing.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
it was
really?
used as color. So it has so dark, intense color that you can color, like for example, wall or table or something
Mhm.
that you can.
It can be used like a natural color too.
Yeah,
I see.
because of
Right.
dark color.
Well,
So it's not
To
like
paint
it's colorful
something.
for skin or not.
And
So
even
it's-
in the glass, it really covers the glass, and it's
With
really
color.
hard to wash it after that.
Right. Now, do you generally produce single varietal wines, or to what extent are the producers blending wines or blending fruit like a field blend?
Yeah, well, actually, in experience, we have to make blends, many blends, and it was mostly popular while we were under Soviet Union to make blends of like Tsitska and Solikauri and Gorulitvan and Chinuri, some different grape varieties. But nowadays, mostly, it's separate. But mostly nowadays, like
This is one, the saperavi, the dark one. Oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
a second. Go ahead.
Finding- Is it seen?
Oh,
Yes.
there you go.
Very good.
mostly nowadays people start to appreciate separate tastes, like for example, separately Tsitska, separately Solikauri. But actually, it's very common in Georgia as well to make blends, like for few varieties.
Okay. So so is that the two of the reds that you were going to show?
Yeah.
Right.
So this white red, it comes from Cajete, and it was just light red. And the red wine we're gonna taste today. Is Tamkaveri grapes. I'll show you the label as well.
Hold on, let me get. Go ahead. Why don't you say something, then I'll get the picture. I'm on the speaker view.
Actually, it's not visible, but I
Maybe a
can.
little closer.
Is better?
Yes, got it.
So this grape variety comes from Kharkiv region. It's central part of Georgia, and they never had their own style of winemaking. I mean, like Cajetian or Emiratian. They used like sometimes Cajetian, sometimes Emiratian style. It depends like grape variety and the year, like how was harvest. Like it was sunny days or rainy days before harvest, and so on and so on. It depends on many things like wineries, winemakers, and so on. This one is Takveri. It comes from Kharkiv region. It's also like interesting grape variety for Georgians, and I think not only for Georgians because it's, I would say, I think all who knows grapes, almost all wines are Hemrep products. Like if you settle wine itself, it's like this wine has only feminine gender, like it's not hermaphroditic. So if you have this wine in the gray vineyard, you must have another grapes to how to say, to grow the grapes. I can't explain now how to say in other words, but actually this is totally feminine gender grapes. It's Takveri, vintage of 2019. It's like not so heavy as Saperavi. Saperavi is very like full-bodied and how to say more different like wine. But actually, I tried to choose a wine which was not like Saperavi because it's very common in Georgia. Like in every restaurant or like cafe, you'll find Saperavi, but not Takveri.
Very good.
Than Saperavi. It's more light. Besides, it looks like very dark red. It's very light. If you taste it, and it's very like refreshing for my palate. It's very refreshing and like light red wine.
What's the vintage on this? Or the last two?
2019.
This is the 19.
Yeah. 2019.
So these are very different from California wines.
Very different.
Generally about 11.5, 12% alcohol as well.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, that was a good thing to mention, the alcohol. Yeah. So again, is this nonetheless characterized as a dry wine, would you say?
Oh, to go see him, sure.
So I'm gonna give 2 bottles to Damon, and so if you got a chance to mix each other, you can share this bottle.
Right. Well, he may drink them before he leaves the country.
You only get one bottle, right?
And when you come in Georgia, I think you're gonna take more than 1 bottle. So
Right, right. So as we wind up here, Otto, let me ask you, what is, apart from being a wine enthusiast, I believe you have a wine-related business? Is that correct?
Actually, I do not have my own wine. I'm going to make that because almost all families have wine here in Georgia. So actually, I'm going to make my own wine, but at the moment I work for the company for a long time. It's 12 years already. So I think I can tell it's not my business, but actually I'm very involved in this business, and I love this wine and everything. So that's why I think I can be the good presenter of Georgian wines. Like,
Right. Well, very good. Well, I've kept all of you longer than intended, and I don't want to hold you back from a more vigorous tasting, or should I say drinking. But I do have a wine here. You can see the dark wine. But I wish it could be California, but I had a bottle open, and this is from Portugal, this particular wine. So, I will call it a breakfast wine because I'm going to have breakfast very soon. So, right. Well, cheers to all of you, and great to see you, Damon and Giorgi and Otto. And thanks very much for the lesson, which needs to be really done in person. So I look forward to Giorgi and I are working on something. So
Yeah.
hopefully will bring me there. And I know he wants to visit here. So let me thank you all very much. Great to see you. I'll let you return to your festivities.